Hello, my name is John Morales. I'm in the History 131 class, and today I will be presenting my final assessment for this class. So, what is conflict and compromise? The theme of conflict and compromise is a way of learning historical events while understanding why it happened and what the effects were of the event, rather than only knowing an event and the date in which it occurred. I believe that the theme of conflict and compromise provides a deeper understanding of the events. How has conflict and compromise impacted the development of cultural aspects of American society? For my Unit 3 assessment, I focused on the cultural lens and learned about the Black Codes. Through this assessment, I learned about the end of slavery and how Southerners questioned if former slaves should have the same definition of freedom as they did. Laws known as Black Codes were put into place to limit the freedom that African Americans had and to keep them as a cheap labor force. But although there was no compromise that fully fixed the issues of inequality, laws such as the Black Codes and years of being treated poorly and unequally had empowered the Black communities to speak out, and it created a spark to the beginning of what we know now as the Civil Rights Movement. How has conflict and compromise impacted the development of socioeconomic aspects of American society? For a Pretzel collaboration and for my Unit 1 assessment, I spoke on the socioeconomic lens and concentrated on the historical events between the colonies and King George III. Conflict and compromise have played an important role in the development of socioeconomic aspects of American society in many ways throughout history. An example of this is the acts and taxes that were put into place for the colonies by King George III, which would later result in the 7 Years' War. This is an example of socioeconomic conflict and compromise because Britain needed economic gain after the wars due to wanting control over Western territories and being in debt. So, in order to get out of the mess, colonies were taxed. How has conflict and compromise impacted the development of political aspects of American society? For my Unit 2 assessment, I focused on the political lens of conflict and compromise and how it impacted the development of American society. In this assessment, I wrote about the Federalists and Anti-Federalists, who they were, and what the two sides supported. I also wrote about the conflict between the two parties and how, in order to fully ratify the Constitution, Federalists had to come to a compromise with the Anti-Federalists by including the Bill of Rights in the Constitution. I believe that the political aspect of conflict and compromise had the greatest impact on the development of American society because through the process of becoming an independent country, politicians and citizens began to see that not everyone agreed on the same decisions for the country. What is the most significant pieces of knowledge that you have gained through this course? Why? In this class, we learn information through collaboration with peers on Pretzel, unit assessments, and Inquisitive. Through these resources, I have been able to engage more into what we are learning in the class and even do research for myself on the topics. I believe that the most significant pieces of knowledge I learned was about the beginnings and troubles of political parties, like the creation of the Republican Party in the 1850s. Through my Pretzel collaborations and my Unit 2 assessment, I learned about who supported these parties and what they believed. I believe that it is the most significant piece of learning because it is important to understand the issues that have been present with the political parties because it helps us understand the mistakes that were made so that in the present we do not repeat them. What connections can you make between this course and other experiences that you have had this semester? A connection I can make between this course and other experiences in learning is the use of a theme for the class. In using the theme of conflict and compromise, we learn about why these events happen and what the aftermath or consequences were. For other classes, I have had a theme to go by with the same principle of deeper understanding in a subject. Most significant, meaningful work that you have done this semester and why? The most significant and meaningful work that I have done this semester is my unit assessments, because they help me understand what I was learning by rereading the chapters for information and conducting research on my own for the assessments. How do you plan to use this learning moving forward? How will your understanding of American history impact your role in our modern world? I think that in learning about our history, It really changed my views on a lot of the problems we face today, such as racism. Although it is not the same as it was back in the day, it is still a problem that we face today. But in learning about these similar issues and how they were fought, it made me realize that fighting negativity should be with peace rather than hate. What challenges have you faced this semester? How have you overcome them? A challenge I faced this semester was understanding instructions for assignments and keeping a schedule for my classes due to work and my personal life. I overcame these challenges by emailing the teacher for instructions and keeping a to-do list for every day with due dates on assignments. Another challenge I faced was at the beginning of this course when I was a bit nervous in recording and presenting my work. But through these assignments, have I have been able to be more comfortable in doing so, and I have become more confident in presenting. What goals will you set for the next steps of your learning journey? I have set goals for myself to be more organized in assignment details, and engage better with the content by doing research on my own, as I have seen that I get a better understanding of the information when I do. Thank you for listening to my presentation. I wish everyone